Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Paul, and in this RedGaming.com video, we're going to be discussing and analysing tech news which, as usual, has popped up over the past 24 or so hours. We're going to be starting things out with Intel's Z390 Motherboard platform, specifically some leaks which have emerged thanks to Syssoft's Sandra. Then we're going to discuss the Intel Gemini Lake Plus processors, which are for low-cost PCs. And then finally, we'll tackle the VESA newest standard, and that is for Display ID version 2.0, and this will be succeeding EDID. But as I mentioned, first things first, and that is the Supermicro C7 Z390-PGW motherboard. Just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Simple. Anyway, this entry tells us that we're going to be seeing, at least possibly, the Z390 motherboard platform launch earlier than anticipated. There was a leaked roadmap, just for those who don't know, which told us that the X390 motherboards were going to be launching around the second half of 2018. But since we're seeing a few leaks now for X390, it's possible that the release date has been pushed a little bit forward, and therefore we might see it launch possibly, a month or a couple of months earlier, with any luck anyway. Now, about 6 months ago, there was another roadmap which was leaked, and this showed the 8th generation Coffee Lake S processors. Now, those are going to be launched early next year. Intel's roadmap, by the way, is really confusing at this point. The roadmap lists 6, 4 and 2 core CPUs, and their TDP ranges between 35 and 65 watts. Now, there's a couple of interesting things to note. First of all, the CPU which is being detected is being listed as 92 watts TDP, but you can clearly see that it's got 6 cores, 12 threads. It's possible that this is an 8700K, which is simply being detected incorrectly by the motherboard's BIOS. But of course, I am purely guessing on that. It's worth noting, actually, that Eurocom, at least a representative of Eurocom, have actually claimed that the Z390 motherboards will support up to 8 processor cores on the mainstream. Now, the reason this is particularly of interest is, as I mentioned at the very beginning of this video, Intel have been facing off rather competitively with AMD, and it's worth noting that I think many in the technology industry probably actually didn't really expect Ryzen to compete as well as it has. I think the adoption for Ryzen has been actually really good, and Intel are obviously not very happy about that. It's all well and good to say that, our IPC is better or our overclocking is better, but for many people, the fact that AMD definitely have a core advantage is something that Intel are probably not too happy with, because it obviously is a major selling point. So it's possible, therefore, that when we see these new Coffee Lake S processors, and of course the Z390 platform, 8 cores could certainly be very interesting to Intel, both as a performance metric but also as a PR metric, or rather a PR sales tactic. Don't forget that when we see these processors launched, they will most likely, not exactly directly as in within the same week or something, but essentially they will be going after the same target as the Ryzen 2000s, which once again is going to be based upon Zen Plus microarchitecture. A small little caveat, however, people are pretty pissed and are already rather upset with Intel, because you've got Kaby Lake, which had a very short shelf life. I mean, you don't need me to tell you that, you know that as well as I do. And then you've got Coffee Lake, and then if you've just bought, let's say, a 370 motherboard, and then there's like this cutoff where you can't even put an 8-core processor in your Z370 motherboard, I have a feeling people are gonna be just a hint upset, but maybe I'm wrong. Many of the actual features in the 390, also known as the Coffee Lake S PCH, currently we're looking at the Kaby Lake R PCH, also known as the Z370 platform. See how ridiculously confusing this is? Memory performance is being touted to the same, 2666 MHz. It still supports many of the same audio functionality and I/O connectivity. There are a couple of small differences, however. For example, the 300 series supposedly has an integrated SDXC 3.0 controller, for example, but how this trickles down and is this for certain and all this stuff, it's still a bit up in the air. One thing I will say, however, is it's going to be very interesting to see how let's say the enthusiast section of the market is going to handle all of this. By enthusiast section, of course, I refer to, let's say, the Z390 and its successor, because obviously if you've wanted to have more than 4 cores up until recently with Intel, you've needed to go like the enthusiast route, or of course you could have gone like a Xeon build or whatever like that, which I'm still going to classify as, to be honest with you, I'm still going to classify as enthusiast. So now we're starting to see the adoption of higher core counts on the mainstream side. It's going to be interesting to see how Intel are going to tempt you, I suppose is the best way, to cough up the extra cash. Obviously we're going to see improved bandwidth, probably additional PCIe connectors and all this stuff. And also one last thing, from what I'm hearing, the Z390 platform is still going to be using PCIe 3.0 and not 4.0, just for your FYI. Now this is a piece of news that was sent to me by Joe, so thanks very much to him, and it is being reported on Madison.com, that is MADISON.com. Intel are planning Gemini Lake Plus processors, and these are going to be for low-cost PCs. Intel are expected to release a new family of processors. We need more of those. We need more families of processors from Intel. This family is known as Gemini Lake, which is going to once again be for the budget performance computer market, so like low cost, but offering fairly decent levels of performance anyway. I wouldn't say high performance. The Gemini Lake chips are expected to offer better performance than Apollo Lake. And there is some discussion. Fanless Tech, who originally broke this story, are stating that it's possible we could see this on a 10nm technology process, but others are saying no, it's more likely going to be some improved variant of 14nm. The most likely scenario at this point is 14nm++. According to Intel themselves, this offers about 10% boost in performance over regular 14nm+. The most likely changes we're going to see here are small improvements to the CPU cores themselves, possibly improvements to the memory controller. Inevitably, this will lead to faster memory speed support, and the most likely scenario is also improvements to the actual graphics cores themselves. It is very slightly possible that AMD might be asked to provide something here, but very, very, very unlikely, just given the low-cost nature of these chips. So I highly doubt, I mean, it's within the realms of possibility, but incredibly unlikely that Intel will be asking AMD to provide any technologies from this. So most likely we're going to see like Generation 9 improved graphics, or possibly even Generation 10 graphics cores instead. And finally, VESA. They have announced the successor to the current EDID platform standard, known as Display ID V2. And this, as I said, is going to be replacing EDID, also known as Extended Display Identification Data. So what are the positives for Display ID V2? Well, numerous ones, including 120 plus megahertz refresh rates on the display, 4K resolution, plus adaptive sync HDR, augmented / virtual reality. And let's face it, right now in the display arena, there's an awful lot of stuff which is happening. You've once again got high refresh rate monitors, which are becoming more and more prevalent. You've got technologies such as FreeSync and G-Sync, which are also becoming, I wouldn't say exactly industry standards, but an awful lot of devices are now supporting them. And no longer is 1080p like the de facto resolution that most people are going for on new screens. Even 4K televisions, which, by the way, this display standard also includes, because it's monitors, TVs, embedded displays, and even headsets, virtual reality, you get the idea. So even televisions now are becoming increasingly more common to have like 4K, HDR and that type of thing, because prices are coming down quite considerably. And of course, even modern day consoles now are being developed with HDR in mind. Like, we've seen how many patches for the PlayStation 4 Pro and the Xbox One X have been released over the last several weeks alone to offer HDR support. So this is a really cool thing. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. It's been a bit of a brief one today because, well, I'm currently in the middle of benching Threadripper, but hopefully you've enjoyed it anyway. Normal stuff, like, share and subscribe. Apologies for being pretty slow over the last couple of days on responding to comments and that type of thing. It's just been absolutely manic this last couple of days. Being completely honest, tomorrow I have to go to hospital because I have a potential small hernia, so I have to get up really early to go for a scan in the morning, so that's going to be fun. Yay! So hopefully the results are pretty decent on that. It looks like it might not have been a hernia, but who the hell knows. So as I said, I need to have a scan tomorrow, but hopefully within the next couple of days things will settle down and things won't be quite so chaotic, because we've been to a couple of press events as well, and we've got all the footage for that we also need to upload. It's just been a manic couple of weeks because, as you all know, Amy got sick with tonsillitis. I got absolutely battered with the flu plus some other things, and now obviously I've got to go for the scan for a potential hernia, so it's a little bit frustrating. If I did get the hernia, for those wondering, it was probably when I went to the gym and doing legs. And the ironic thing is I was not lifting heavily at the time, because I actually was feeling crap because I was getting sick. So it is what it is, people. It is what it is. With all of that said, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.